So I want y'all to let me know. All right, if you have student loans, if you've had student loans, did anyone of you all watching this video today, did any one of you all actually get any kind of debt relief, any kind of student loan cancellation, anything? Do you know anybody that had some canceled? Me personally, I do not. I don't know a single person that got their student loan debt canceled, at least under under the student loan forgiveness program. I know some people who were caught up in like the college, what is it, the Institute of Technology, I think it is, one of those or a group of those colleges that was just out there finessing, and then you know, basically everybody's degrees were worthless, and so a lot of people got theirs canceled that way. All of that aside, I mean, you went to a private school, private what do they call it, accredited school, or a state run accredited school. You took out student loans and you were able to get them canceled either through the public service or some other forgiveness program. If that's you, let me know. All right, I'd really be curious to know. This video is going to investigate if people actually did get it canceled. So let's check this out. All right, this is interesting. It's Ricky Rich for Black Supremacy. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications.
Been an administration that has come close to what we've done.
I got a letter that my student loans have been forgiven.
Okay, y'all, I got my student loans forgiven. So he did what he said he was gonna do.
Over $90,000 of my student loans had been forgiven.
What gives Elizabeth Warren a pep in her step?
That nearly 5 million people in America have seen their student loan debt canceled.
Student debt cancellation for 5 million people and counting is quite an amazing accomplishment, particularly for a president who initially said,
"I will not make that happen."
When he was running for president in 2019, Joe Biden proposed a higher education plan that didn't offer any student debt forgiveness. But thanks to persistent public pressure from young people and progressive leaders,
canceling student loan debt is the single most effective executive action President Biden can take.
These young people are leaving school deeply.
By the way, I mostly disagree with the idea to cancel student loan debt, and I'll share that with you all at the end if you stick around.
Debt, they're struggling economically. They deserve a break.
candidate Biden was ultimately persuaded, and at the conclusion of the Democratic primary, he pledged to support debt cancellation for up to $10,000 per borrower. And in August 2022, months before a crucial midterm election, President Biden rolled out a detailed plan.
Using the authority Congress granted the Department of Education, we will forgive $10,000 in outstanding federal student loans.
And he even promoted that plan with a video with this guy.
No matter what these Republican officials say, we know student debt relief will make a real difference for people.
43 million Americans would have benefited from it. Unfortunately, the radical right Supreme Court knocked that relief plan down. Thankfully, the Biden administration, especially his Secretary of Education, kept finding other legal avenues to cancel student debt for people.
More than 1 out of 10 people that have student loan have already had their loan forgiven. 1 out of 10. And that's with the Supreme Court striking down our biggest plan.
Now, after years of pressure and despite the Supreme Court sabotage, the Biden administration has managed to cancel billions of dollars in student debt. But honestly, I suspect very few of us know all the specifics about what they've done. So I sat down with Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona and Undersecretary James Qual to better understand the specific details of who has gotten relief and why. It feels like month after month, there seem to be new updates coming from your department about yet another program for debt cancellation. Pull us back. What are the principles that are guiding you here, Mr. Secretary?
Over 1 million people go into a default every year. We don't talk about that. This is about supporting our students and leveling the playing field the way the president asked me to do when he hired me, but it's also about recognizing that education is the foundation of our country's growth. We have to invest in it and fix it if we're serious about making sure America reaches its potential. You know, the banks, when they were falling apart, the federal government had help. We're helping working class people now.
Let's start at the outset. How many total people have received student debt relief as a result of the efforts of this department?
About 4.5 million.
So let's start with this 4.5 million as a global pie chart. How much in total dollars on average do you think that most of these people have received in student debt relief?
Well, it's a total in the order of $150 billion or so. That would be, $25,000, $30,000 a person.
When you think about the biggest pie chart of that 4.5 million, who are those people?
The biggest group are people who were cheated by for-profit colleges or who found their colleges closed. There was an enormous boom in for-profit online education, typically enrolling low-income students, students of color.
And this is the group that that I was talking about earlier. So to me, this this 4.5 million that they're talking about does not count, in my opinion. In my opinion, yes, they were forgiven, but they were legitimately like robbed. They were, they paid for something and got nothing. But let's continue on.
First-generation college students and leaving them with very large debts and very poor career prospects. Often there was high pressure or deceptive recruiting that was illegal. And when a student takes out a loan based upon a legal premise, then we are allowed to forgive that loan.
How many total people do you think generally that is?
That's about 1.5 million people.
Walk us through some of the other major components of the recipients who received student debt relief.
Well, another major group are people in public service. And 15 years ago, Congress passed this law saying if you go into public service, you make payments for 10 years, you work for 10 years, then at the end of that, your loan can be forgiven. But the program was poorly designed. It was administered with indifference. At the start of this administration, only 7,000 people had ever gotten loan forgiveness. And famously, the program had a 99% rejection rate.
Why was this happening? Why was the rejection rate that high?
It was a very complicated and somewhat obscure eligibility requirements that people just didn't understand, or they didn't have the help that they needed navigating the program and getting the benefits they were entitled to. I mean, we're talking about teachers, nurses, service members, public sector employees, nonprofit employees. We've cleaned up a lot of the tricks and traps that were keeping people from getting these benefits. We also permanently opened up new repayment plans into the program, so you wouldn't be penalized if you didn't enroll in the right plan right away. And as a result of these changes and other types of changes, the number of people who have gotten public service loan forgiveness has gone from 7,000 to 870,000.
So we've talked about a couple of steps.
I do like that. I like that change. And I was actually following this statistic when it was 7,000 back in like 2017, 2018. That was when I was getting out of student loans, and I saw this statistic. So to see now in 2024 that it has gone up to almost 1 million, that's I like that. I could say I like that.
1,000 to 870,000.
So we've talked about a couple of sets of actors. Are there other categories of people who've benefited?
Yeah, the next category I would mention is people who've been in repayment for 20 or 25 years or longer. The department has long had a program that says pay what you can afford, and after a couple of decades, if you still owe money, we'll forgive the balance so that student loans don't become a life sentence. In this case, at the start of the administration, only a few hundred people had ever gotten this form of forgiveness. So we were able to give people credit, and as a result, we've forgiven hundreds of thousands of loans for people that, that did their share, that paid their part for many, many years. So this was an automatic benefit that we provided, that's really important. And we found that when people have to navigate all these forms and figure it out, they often aren't eligible, even if we know in our own data that they should be eligible.
Do you have a rough sense of how many total people we're talking about who benefited here?
More than 1 million people.
Are there other programs that you wanted to mention as recipients of student debt relief?
If you have a total and permanent disability, you're eligible to have your student loan forgiven. But we still had them on their books. And in fact, in some cases, they had gone into default and we were garnishing their Social Security payments when the fact that they were even getting those payments meant they were eligible to have their student loans forgiven.
And you came in and helped alleviate it and did it automatically?
That's right. And I really want to emphasize, sometimes people say this is about helping doctors and lawyers.
They're transferring wealth from lower income and middle income people to people higher income. It's extremely unfair.
The people that we're helping, these are not highly paid individuals. These are people that don't get the financial ROI from their student loan because they're disabled, because they were cheated by a for-profit college, because they're persistently low income over many, many years. So I think there's a real misunderstanding about just how broad the problem of student debt has become in our country and why steps this aggressive are really needed.
To a working class person who says, I didn't go to college, Mr. Secretary, I saw a lot of other people who did and now they're getting their debt forgiven. Why am I, as a working class person, how am I benefiting? What's in it for me here?
Look, this is the administration that's going to make it so that that person can go to college, or that person's children can go to college and have a good return on investment. I don't want my neighbor to go into default because that hurts the community in which I live.
If Donald Trump becomes president, he would eliminate all these student debt forgiveness programs and sabotage the potential for even more borrowers to get relief. And that's only the start. His allies have laid out a blueprint in Project 2025 for abolishing the Department of Education and privatizing student loans. Critics, your critics, they look at what you're doing and they say, I got a solution. Why don't we just abolish the Department of Education?
You're doing a good job for the American people when you're living rent-free in their head and they want to take you out. Now, if we let go and don't have a Department of Education, think about the disparities in this country. Think about what's happening with the privatization of K-12 education, where they're proposing taking Title I dollars and turning it into vouchers. It's going to further exacerbate the haves and the have-nots in this country. We are going to defend public education while they try to defund it.
I definitely agree with that last statement. I think getting rid of it and privatizing it would probably be the worst thing for the Black community that you could possibly do. It would definitely drive a wedge between who can go to college and who can't. Not from an educational standpoint, right? From a literally who can afford to, who can get to, who can stay into college and who can't. Right. And so that's a big no for me. I also I like most of what was said in this video in terms of who was actually given student loan forgiveness. I knew about the folks who were scammed for those for-profit colleges. And I did know about the people who work in the public sector. I did not know about the individuals with full disabilities. And I can't remember what the other one was. Oh, the other one was the low income. I knew about that one as well. After 25 years, 20 or 25 years, you can get it forgiven. But I did like what the gentleman said, where he's like, this is a group of people who pretty much in any circumstance would never be able to pay it off anyway, right? So let's give them an opportunity to get it paid off, get it forgiven after a certain threshold, right? And I think I'm pretty much okay with some of my tax dollars going to that cause, as of today. That may change. But I don't really have a problem with that. My problem with the last attempt at student loan forgiveness, the big one for pretty much everyone who had student loans or everyone who qualified through the student loan system, which I actually qualified, and my student loans were paid off, but there was a way that I was still going to be able to get it, so to speak. And I'll be honest, I would have taken it if it went through. Um, but my issue with them continuing to push it first, I don't think it would ever happen. Just because it's a cash cow for the United States. They're not going to cut off their cash cow. Secondly, they're still giving out student loans. So how do you forgive student loans if you're still issuing them out in the same manner that you did with these individuals who you are now saying you're going to forgive, right? But the most important reason why I am not pro student loan forgiveness is because I feel like it will create a it diminishes the hard work that one would take to actually pay that off. It also gives people this false idea of just, well, I'll just go to school and just take whatever and just do whatever, and I'll keep switching degrees, or I'll get multiple degrees, just because I likely won't have to pay for it anyway. I actually had someone when I was in school telling me that I should, because I was concerned about how much student loans I was taking out. I was talking to her about it, and she told me like, hey, this was way before Joe Biden became president. And she was like, well, the administration is looking at canceling, so don't even worry about it. Just go and just take him out and worry about it later. They'll probably be canceled anyway, right? And it's like, that's the type of mentality people had then and probably still have now, is that people are now like becoming, or had become, unwilling to like make an informed decision when it came to the degree that they take, how much they take out, right? Like, they don't have to pay for it, so it's whatever. And I can't get behind, especially if it's going to be my tax dollars helping to pay that off, right? Everybody needs to be scared of student loans. You need to be just as scared as I was when I took them out, right? Because I took out $32,000 worth of student loans and I paid that off every dime straight out of my pocket, right? 32,000 is about average as of today. It's about average. It's a lot of money, right? It's a lot of money to be in debt to, especially something that you can't give back, right? Like, you can go buy a $32,000 car, $32,000 house, or whatever, and that's an asset that you can give back in the event that you can't afford the payments on that. Student loans, you can't. And you can't bankrupt them either, so they're with you forever. So $32,000 is a lot to just have, like, with nothing to return, right? The only thing you can get out of that is making sure that you pick the degree, right, that is going to yield you the best ROI, so that you can pay that off, and boom, you win, right? But for me, I chose my degree and my education field very, very wisely. I went to school. I didn't go to school, college straight out of high school. I didn't even go 5 years out of high school. I didn't even start until probably like 7 or 8 years out of high school is when I decided, okay, let me go ahead and get serious and buckle down and really pay attention. And before I went, right, I made sure I had a job. At the job that I was working at the time they offered tuition assistance. So they paid for a lot of my undergrad and later on they'd end up paying for all of my master's. That was an informed. That's a decision that I made based on the fact that I wanted to limit how much student loans that I took out. Right. I sat down at the computer. I tried to figure out, okay, what is going to be the best degree for me to get something that will continue to give me ROI well on past graduation. Because originally, when I first got out of high school and when I was kind of messing around in college, I was doing graphic design. Right, that's something I'm really still passionate about to this day. Everything that you see here on the YouTube, I designed, and that's just something that I've been passionate for years now, right? But it didn't make sense for me to go to school for that, right? So I had to pivot. Another informed decision. I was very, very thoughtful when it came to what education I was going to get, how I was going to get it, right? There was an Ivy League school that I had got into for my master's. I couldn't get them to get the price down, so I didn't go. I went back to the state school, right? My master's, when I was looking at it at the first school, it was 150 grand or something like that. Or one of the schools 150 grand. The other one that I was most likely going to go to was 90 grand. That was Pepperdine out in Malibu. And then the one I ended up going to was 50 grand, which 35 grand of that was paid for by the job that I was going to. So for me, my master's only cost me 15 grand out of pocket. Barely that. It was like 12 grand out of pocket. Right. So everything I did, I was focused and made sure that by the time I graduated with my master's, I wasn't going to owe anybody. Right. And so after doing all of that and paying off my $32,000 from my undergrad, I just can't get behind people just not paying attention and going to school and just doing whatever it is that they want to do. I cannot get behind that. I just can't. But I can support those who do not have the ability, right, through a disability or of some sort. Those who their income just does not, they go 10, 15, 20 years and their income just never gets high enough to reasonably pay off their student loans. I'm okay with that. I can support that. Right. I can support public service. I can support the teachers and the the counselors and those that are in the system, the school system and such. I can support helping them get their stuff paid off sooner rather than later. Right. But I cannot support the person who just wants to get a degree just because they think that's what you're supposed to do, and they get 10 different degrees and then they don't want to pay them off. I cannot support the doctor or lawyer who they go $200,000-$300,000 in student loan debt. They come out, they get in their career, they're making $300,000 a year, and then they spend money doing all these other things and not paying off your student loan debts. Okay, $300,000 a year income with a $300,000 a year student loan debt, you could pay that off within 5 years, easy, making that kind of money. You really could. You could literally take $50,000 cash per year and have a $300,000 student loan paid off in 5 years and still have $250,000 before tax, of course, to spend. So especially in the high income category, I don't want to hear anything about student loan forgiveness. And then those who decided that they were just gonna, run up the bag in college and not pay attention, and you kind of gotta eat that. Honestly, you gotta eat that. You could do it. Again, the average student loan the last I checked was $30,000 or $35,000. Like I said, I was right there at the average with 32,000. It's definitely doable. You just have to buckle down and do it. And if y'all need help, y'all can hit me up. I'll let you know everything that I did, how much money I made, the things I had to sacrifice. I'll be an open book on that. Not a problem. Right? I can help y'all get out of that as well. So, where we at? 25 minutes? Jeez. Well, at least you guys know kind of what I'm passionate about. One of the many things that I'm passionate about. But yeah, back to my original question 25 minutes ago. Do y'all know anybody who got student loan forgiveness? Like I said, I don't know anybody who got anything outside of those three categories. I didn't know that those were the only categories that were forgiven. So now it makes sense. Those are literally the categories I mentioned earlier. So those were the only ones. So you wouldn't know anybody who, had $20,000, $30,000 of student loans, got out making a decent wage, and had their student loans for about 10 years, not in the public service. You wouldn't know anybody in that category to have gotten their student loans forgiven. And I think that's fair. All right, so y'all let me know what y'all think, though. All right, it's Ricky Rich of Black Primacy. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications.